I wanted to do is to give a brief overview on the context for the technical requirements for a submission for permissions for mine water heat schemes from the Mining Remediation Authority, and to outline really a little bit about how things have progressed since the presentation that was done at the Symposium 12 months ago. So just as a general overview, as is sort of well understood within this forum, mine water has the potential to provide stable priced, low carbon heating and cooling for homes, business, industry and agriculture. At the Mining Remediation Authority, we're a non-departmental public body created by the 1994 Coal Industry Act, and we own and manage the majority of coal mines and unworked coal in Great Britain. Our work is to make a better future for people and the environment in mining areas. A core element of that is to include keeping people safe and protecting the environment from risks associated with former coal mining. And these include those associated with ground stability, mine gas and mine water. And we've had a number of presentations today that have actually touched upon elements of these and actually how these have been incorporated and reviewed within different schemes, actually also as well, not just in Great Britain. And in our submissions and our review of your submissions, in terms of our technical assurance, is to keep in mind that this is the purpose for the information that we are asking for, in order that we can review the risks related to keeping people safe and protecting the environment. This chart, I think, has been shared before. There's the QR code there, which will take you to where you can find this on our website, gov.uk. This was the pictures there are from the process that we have developed jointly with the Environment Agency. And actually that within that sets out the different stages of the permissions process that we enter into, and alongside that of the environmental regulator within England. That has set out 3 different stages of permissions. So we've got permits and testing phase and operational phase access agreements. So picking up on something that was said actually within the last presentation, the permit stage enables the drilling of exploratory boreholes, and we refer to the permitting stage as the exploratory phase, without the requirement to enter into an access agreement. So the permissions are aligned to that would be required for generally drilling a borehole for other purposes, but with specific details for the scheme proposals. And those permits can be provided to drill boreholes, to do monitoring and establishing baseline information such as the water level and pressure, water sampling so that the chemistry can be understood, which can help to inform the conceptual understanding of the connections between mine workings, and monitoring of mine gas. Within the access agreement, as I say, we have those 2 phases, and that was then concluded by decommissioning of a scheme at the point of which the scheme is no longer to be operated. As I said, this has been developed jointly with the Environment Agency. Other permissions might be required, such as those from the local planning authority, or where surface access is required from a landowner or a property owner. We are looking to develop or publish a similar process within Wales. We've been working with Natural Resources Wales on the development of that. And also we hope to be able to produce something within Scotland to demonstrate actually how you would secure Mining Remediation Authority permission within Scotland. So taking each of those stages in turn, applying for a permit is a fairly well-established process. Required to enter coal and or coal mines. It does not give permission for manned entry. That therefore would trigger the mines regs. So this is for, say, the drilling of boreholes and for some testing, which may include water testing, temperature, for example. Generally, a permit is a short-term permission. The process for applying is through the website, and that's through the ground stability website, and a login there is required to do that, but that process is the same as for drilling for all boreholes into mine workings. I've got some links on my last slide that will give more information specifically about applying for permits, which has been provided previously by our permitting team. In terms of providing and applying for the permissions to develop the scheme, so an access agreement is required for that. This can give a longer term permission to access the workings. Within this, it's important that a hydrogeological understanding is there. We heard a presentation earlier that talked about the importance of hydrogeological understanding to the success of a scheme. From our perspective as well, that's also critical to the understanding of the risks to the scheme. So they may be done for slightly different reasons, but their end is the same, to develop a successful and safe scheme. So the legal agreement has those two phases. The testing phase is typically for 12 months. And during that phase, test pumping could be completed, further collection of further monitoring data, and that will help develop an understanding how the mine system has responded to the pumping tests. The operational phase will generally be for a longer term. For example, this could be for 20 years to facilitate the scheme whilst operational. And both phases require the operator to apply to the Mining Remediation Authority for permission to do the next phase of their work, and also as well how that may link to the relevant permissions and appropriate permissions from the environmental regulator. Application forms have been developed over the last 12 months, and they are available, which are asking for headline information. There's the general scheme background, such as who the operator is going to be, who the applicant is, the scheme designer, the targeted workings, for example. And the form will be completed prior to each phase of the application form being entered into. That application form needs to be supplemented and supported by some technical information, one of which is a borehole details form, and this will contain as much information as there are boreholes there. This will include the points of abstraction, the points of discharge, and also any monitoring boreholes that may be part of the scheme or may be required to monitor the scheme in terms of drawdown levels, for example, of the water, gas away from the abstraction point. We also heard earlier today as well about the risk of drilling boreholes, and where boreholes may not be able to be developed as an operational borehole. Potential consideration could be given to these by the applicant as to how they want to consider whether these would be appropriate for their longer term monitoring, and that's something for them to consider as part of their scheme design. An Annex B technical submission is also required. A best practice note has been prepared for this, and this is also available to set out what the requirements are that are in line with what we said at the beginning of the presentation about managing the risks for those that we are concerned with. During 2025, our intention is to produce a template document to help streamline the process of applying for this and the speed with which the technical assurance review can take place. Our review in terms of technical assurance can only be based upon what has been submitted for by the applicant and the designer. So it's critical to give us the information that can enable us to understand the risks to the scheme, how they're being monitored, how they can be controlled, and what the parameters for the operation may be. So as an example, if water levels are rising, what is the level above which the system cannot be operated if there becomes a risk of water coming to surface, for example. As the process goes on, the understanding of the system will become more based on the data and less based on historic records. The parameters of the scheme will be tested. They're not limited to pumping rates, water levels, levels of recorded mine gases and water chemistry. I've mentioned about the monitoring details to understand the parameters and how that will be monitored. And again, how that's monitored, not just necessarily within the operational boreholes, but within the system, and what controls will be applied if those parameters are breached. So in terms of some of the specific requirements, hydrogeology is critical to understanding the system. And this is demonstrated through the submission of a hydrogeological risk assessment. An example of this is set out below. This should provide confirmation of the connectivity between the abstraction and discharge points. Mine gas and ground stability. Also, we want to understand an understanding of the potential for the mine gas, both within the unflooded workings and within the mine water, and an understanding of the potential for changing water levels, pumping and re-injection that may change the mine gas status at the site and elsewhere within the system, and this is to be set out within a mine gas risk assessment. We also need to review details of how stability and subsidence has been considered as part of the scheme and the control measures to be put in place. What I wanted to do is to outline that the schemes, we are looking to protect people and keep the environment protected as well. This is an assurance process in the way that many schemes need assurance, monitoring, controls as they're operated. The assurance can help to provide the information that we're providing in the application forms that and documents that we're developing can help to sort of assimilate how that can be done in the most efficient manner as possible. What I've got there, which I will read out, is a summary of what we mean by technical assurance. So technical assurance is the review of submitted applications for mine water heating, cooling and storage schemes and projects in respect to protecting the environment and public safety. It's completed in advance of entering into any phase of a mine water heat access agreement and includes a review of the proposal, its risks and risk management. I've set out here a number of links to previous presentations that may provide more detail and more background for those that may be interested but haven't heard previously. The QR code is a duplicate of the one I provided earlier, which provides you with the access to some of the documentation that's been published and also links to where you can find out further information. Thank you very much.